topic, roadblock number 6, client population by default. The key question here is who's choosing whom? And so what we're going to be focusing in on today's program is your existing client list, where it came from, and where you're going from this point forward. So I'm curious, just as a little bit of a survey question, how many of you right now would say that you honestly, truly have the client list of your dreams? That the client list is populated with people you absolutely love, you want more of them. I mean, it really is the textbook perfect representation of the client list you want more than anything else. So yeah, I'm getting a lot of like, not really, not me, nope, some yes, some not so much. Okay, so yeah, this is, we're all in the same little boat. So we really do want to explore this a little bit. So is your client population the result of careful design, or is it just something that you've kind of accumulated by, no real method, just kind of default? This is where you've ended up. So let's take a look at some differences between these. We'll start with client population by design. In a client population by design situation, here's the things that are true. You pre-selected these individuals. So they didn't just find you or whatever. You knew them. You chose them. Whether you researched the names of companies or you knew people that you said, I want them. You pre-selected them. You then pursued them. You qualified them. You landed them, and you've maintained them. So if this is a good description of how you've come to arrive at that particular client, that client is definitely yours by design. So you pre-selected them, you pursued them, you qualified them, you landed them, you maintained them. They are yours, 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 yours. Hopefully, they really are a good representation of the clients you want the most. But that's what we mean in the client population by design. On the other hand, we have a client population by default. Oops. So let's take a look at that. A client population by default turns out this way. And again, as we are working our way through this, please kind of share with me if you have ever done this. It's a bunch of random thoughts, but you'll see how they all cover the basis. So you ended up with a client because you just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So you didn't know they existed, or maybe you did, but you didn't really have any thought about pursuing them. Let's go back a slide. Just a second, I can explain that. So you might have pre-selected them because you knew you'd really love to have this client, but you didn't pursue them. You didn't qualify them. You didn't land them. Somehow or another, you just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And miracle of all miracles, this client is now in front of you, and hopefully you did the right things and turned them into a nice billable opportunity for yourself. So maybe that's it. You were in the right place at the right time. Sometimes clients just fall from the sky. You don't know how they found out about you. You don't know where they just boom, there they are, a gift of the universe. So they just fell from the sky. Another way you end up with a client by default is you received a referral that wasn't really ideal. So you might have a client who is really a fantastic client, a perfect representation of who you'd love to fill the whole list with, and they gave you a referral. But the person they referred you to wasn't exactly who you were looking for. And this has happened countless times over the course of the 30-plus years that I've been doing this line of work because, the clients get to know you and they appreciate what you're doing and they see how useful you've been to them. And then they ask you, could you please talk to so-and-so? Would you be willing to talk to so-and-so? Or I suggested that so-and-so contact you. In a way, you're kind of like obligated to follow up with this client and help them any way you can, if for no other reason than you don't want to disappoint your existing client. So you received a referral, that's nice, but the referral was to an opportunity that really wasn't the ideal that you had in mind there. Let's see, getting some comments here. A lot of experts out there teach that you can set yourself up to attract the client in a fall from the sky, but they are meant for you kind of way. Well, and I guess that there are certainly things I can do from a marketing perspective that will bring me qualified inquiries, and certainly that's something that we'd like to be doing. I don't think of those as falling from the sky. I do think those were the results because it said I set myself up. So I did something deliberate. I did something very calculated, very intentional. I knew who I was looking for, and I was able to communicate to that population through that marketing effort that they have the need and they match what I'm looking for, and so, hey, let's do something. So when I'm talking about something that literally falls from the sky, there is no cause and effect relationship. It's just literally that gift of the universe. So while the universe may bestow upon us a certain gift from time to time, I don't really know that that is a solid marketing plan. So, but yeah, and I get that. Now, there are a lot of so-called experts out there who will teach you that you can do that. My big fear is that those people are trying to teach you that hope is a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. It's easy to get people enamored around these more mystical ways of ending up with clients because the mystical ways of ending up with clients don't require the real hard work to be done. And so there's a lot of people out there who are very afraid of doing marketing and certainly terrified of doing sales. And so they will turn to any option they stumble across that would somehow or another relieve them of that responsibility. But the world that I live in is a world that does allow for the possibility that things might find you that were always meant for you to have. But by and large, we have to have a more deliberate, calculated way of building our business. So that's the only thing I'm cared about. You know, I hate to call anybody in our industry snake oil salesmen, but they are out there. And we've certainly fallen victim to some of them ourselves as these decades have passed. Let's see, Lori sharing. My experience in this strategy is that this strategy has holes or weak spots, and I don't maintain a full pipeline or a full client list. This is exactly right. This thought that you can do something that's going to turn you into like a long-term, sort of rainmaker sort of a situation, all because you did whatever it happens to be, probably something on the internet. I'm sorry, I just can't do that. I just can't do that. I understand how attractive it is to people, and I certainly understand that because of people's fears and anxieties around marketing and selling themselves effectively, they are happy to throw money to those kinds of solutions. But I think it's a horrible disservice to the community. Horrible disservice to the community. That being said, I don't want people to abandon their belief that there is a greater good out there that rewards you or aligns you for certain things. I'd rather have that possibility exist than not exist. But again, I don't really want to rely upon it. Okay, anyway. Bullet point number 3, you received a referral. That's beautiful, but the opportunity that was referred to wasn't exactly ideal, and you might end up feeling stuck. At the same time, if it's an opportunity, it represents some money, and that'll get to this other thing down here at the bottom of the list. So your marketing attracted a less than ideal client. If your marketing is not done properly, if you cast too wide of a net, you could end up with a whole lot of people that really are not qualified for your services, but nevertheless, they have to be followed up on. There's clutter. I'll give you an example of this. One of the things we'll be talking about deeper in the program is about what you should do if you're doing a trade show booth. A lot of us do find ourselves with opportunities to go and staff a little table at some sort of an event, and on the surface, it seems like such a wonderful thing to do and kind of foolish not to do it. Well, that event can end up creating some great opportunities for you, but it could also create a tremendous pile of clutter. And I'll give you one quick glimpse into secrets of trade show selling. We'll get into it in far greater detail, obviously, when that topic appears for the week. So here it says, be careful of giveaways. You want to make sure that whatever you are giving away, so a lot of times you'll say you're trying to collect names, business cards, etc., and so you have like a little bit of a drawing or something. So hey, put your business card in the bowl, and we'll do a drawing later, and good things will happen. Well, the thing is, you want to make sure that whatever you're giving away is something that only your most qualified prospects would find interesting to them. Because if you do something like give away an iPad, you're going to end up with a fishbowl filled with business cards, and a lot of those business cards are going to be people who have no real genuine need for what you do. They don't represent any real opportunity, and wouldn't be ashamed if they're the ones that got the free iPad. So you want to make sure that whatever it is you're giving away is going to attract only the people that are important for you. A lot of marketing strategists say, no, cast as wide a net as possible, and then you can filter through all that and find the ones you want. Well, you know what? Filtering through that pile of business cards takes a lot of time, and I don't know about you, but most of the people we've worked with don't have that kind of time. So there are things that you can do to make sure that your marketing efforts are not only attractive to the people that are qualified for you to pursue, but are actually unattractive to people who are not. And this is what we have to do. So your marketing may have effectively brought you an inquiry, but if it brought you someone who was less than ideal, you might need to modify your marketing to have it be a little bit more, what do I say, a little more specific in what the outcome is going to be. So that's a possibility. You end up with a client because the marketing attracted someone who really wasn't ideal. The next thing, maybe you agreed to do non-core work. So, you know, all of you have got your services you want to provide or your programs you want to teach. But on the side, you could do other things. So, in fact, I joked at the beginning of my career when someone would ask me if I did a particular topic, I would say to them, you give me a topic in 2 weeks, I can come up with a program. That's no problem. I'm really good at developing great program content, and I can do it very, very quickly and give people great, great, great experience. So for whatever reasons, that was my talent coming in to this line of work. Well, at a certain point in time, you end up with 36 different little topics that you've done, but you've become like an expert in none of them. And so you have to, at a certain point, say, wait, what is my core work? And whatever that core work is, you want to focus on that. If you agree to do something that is non-core, then you have just added someone to your client list, and yay, that's good, but you've added someone who is really not your ideal prospect, and that can end up being a problem overall. Another way you end up with a client population by default is because you owed somebody a favor. So they did something for you, and now you feel inclined to do something for them that really wasn't what it is you were hoping to fill your calendar with. And then the last one is you just couldn't say no. Now, there's at least 2 reasons why people can't say no. Reason number 1 is because they seem to not have the ability to have boundaries and enforce those boundaries. So when I say they couldn't say no, I mean something going on psychologically is preventing them from physically saying the word no. But the other side of just couldn't say no is that we all have the harsh reality of bills that need to be paid. And if in a given month you needed more revenue and someone came to you with an opportunity that was not your core work, it was definitely less than ideal, but hey, it represented some income for you, you may very well have said yes to that because you just couldn't afford to say no at that point in time. So just couldn't say no because at least 2 different reasons behind it. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why people have ended up with a client population by default. I'm very curious for all of you. And right now, by the way, I can always tell who's looking at the screen and who isn't. So I want you all to be looking at the screen right now, and I want you to tell me, are you guilty of doing any of these things, or is there one in particular that you seem to have identified as the culprit in bringing you clients and really were not those ideal clients? Anyone have any thoughts, feedback there? Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, I'm getting someone saying like all the above. Okay. Not sure that's really fair. Non-core works as favors. Yeah, it just happens because, you know, first of all, let's accept this about each and every one of us, with probably rare exception. We want to be of service to people. We see people who need our services, and we feel compelled to help them any way we can. And that's really beautiful. And as I said before, that's going to get us a much fluffier cloud after this life is over. But between now and then, it can end up cluttering us with other things to be done. So let's see, getting some comments here. Yeah, less than ideal, had to fire a client. Oh, do I have a story around that one I can certainly share. And another view is sharing that there was failure to clarify what the core work that you do really was. And so perhaps at that stage of your professional development, you really hadn't chosen yet. And so, you know, you start off happy to do whatever you can for whoever you find. But as time goes on, if you really want to end up with a client list of your dreams, things got to get tightened up. And that's what this whole thing is really all about. Just to comment a little bit further about what Len was just saying about occasionally needing to fire a client. Most of you know that for the past few years, I've been invited to do some significant level of work for a Fortune 10 company worldwide. We will allow them to remain nameless. This client has probably paid us in excess of $100,000, maybe $150,000 each year for the past 3 years. But it's not my core work. And so while on the surface it's very attractive because that's a nice chunk of money, thank you, and I was traveling all over the world on someone else's dime, and I was meeting really interesting people, and I was enjoying my audiences, and I was delivering the program. The bottom line is it's not my core work. A decade ago, I made a conscious decision that I was not going to be providing my services to end users any longer. I wasn't looking for corporate clients. I made a conscious choice not to do that. And so somehow, we won't get into all the details, but I ended up agreeing to go and do a one-time hour-long little presentation in Sweden. And I'd never been to Sweden, so I thought, hey, this is great. They're going to pay me my full fee. It's going to be fun. I'm going to go to Sweden and do this one little program. It ended up rolling into, months and months worth of training, mostly because I couldn't say no because I didn't want to disappoint people. And it started because I was doing someone a favor. I did agree to do this non-core work, and because it had a little bit of connection to what I was doing initially, but they liked me and they liked what I was doing. They started asking me to do other topics. Suddenly, I'm being pulled away from things. At a certain point, I just said, I appreciate how much you appreciate me, but it's time for me to say no. And so this is a very strange year for me because it's like I have just basically fired a client that was bringing us 6 figures. So, what can you? It's not my core work, and I'm all right with that. I made my choice, and I made the right choice. Now I just need to make sure that I'm staying really, really tight on that. Okay, so these are some of the things. So sounds like several of you have fallen victim to at least one of these bullet points at some point along the way. So let's see if we can verify that. So here's a little exercise that I'd like you guys to do. Obviously, this is probably something more about homework, but for now, you can get your thoughts together around it. So here's the exercise. List all the clients you've had for the past 12 months. And you can go further back if you want to really see what your pattern happens to be. But list all of your clients for the past 12 months and identify the amount of revenue from each. Now, you might have done this in a prior exercise a couple weeks ago in Building a Career That Matters. So, but if you haven't, you need to do this. Then determine how they came to be your client. Was it by design or by default? In order for it to be designed, it means you knew who they were in advance, you pursued them, you sold them, you maintained them, you did it all from the very beginning. If you didn't do it all from the very beginning, it isn't by design. It's going to be by default. And so you want to just label it, design or default. Those are the two choices. No in-betweens. If you think there's an in-between situation, I'm going to tell you, you're looking at a default situation and just trying to creatively turn it into one by design. Don't do that to yourself. So we want to know by design. Then you're just going to calculate the percentage of those clients from each category, default and design, and the percentage of revenue from each of those categories. So this is what you really want to be doing. So for example, if I look at this, I could say, lo and behold, this client I've been working with came to me by default. I absolutely, not only did I not have any design to go and get this client, my design was to not have such clients. And so my design got completely thrown out the window. And here I've ended up with this client by default. If I look at the amount of revenue that client by default brought me, though, it's a nice chunk of change. I mean, I'm not going to talk all about the specifics of finances, but I've already shared with you that was a 6-figure client. And so no matter what's going on in your business, that's a big percentage of what might be happening in your overall financial situation. So you just need to be aware of this. If you want to move in the direction of design, then we're going to have to pay some very close attention to following these rules or obeying these or honoring these boundaries on the people that are coming onto the default side of the list. Okay, so let's go on. Now, there are only 3 ways I know of to find clients. So let's talk about these 3 ways to find clients. You can buy them, you can help them find you, or you can go out and get them. So the question is, which strategy are you using? Let's talk about these 3 strategies in a little bit more detail. How do you buy your clients? Well, probably the biggest way that we buy clients is through advertising. And so if you are putting ads in different publications, then you're buying them. You are thinking, if I put myself out there enough, they will end up coming and they will end up finding me. I also buy them if I am involved, as I said last week, in one of those contract kinds of situations, I may not be buying them, but I am sacrificing a certain part of my income potential in order to take on this opportunity that's basically being routed my way. So because I have that relationship and because I'm sacrificing that income potential, there's an element there that I've basically spent money to get these clients. Now, no matter who we look at, no matter which situation someone might be in, there's always an element of buying them. One way or another, you are spending money in order to get your clients. You might think you're only spending time to get them, but time is money, and so you're buying them. Now, the second thing you do is to help them find you. When you're talking about helping them find you, what you're doing is a little bit more about like the PR kind of way of doing things. So rather than actually buying advertising space, instead you're going like, no, let me get some articles out there. Let's do some outreach speaking engagements. Let's make some comments on the social media. Let's do something so that people will accidentally, incidentally find me. And because they find me, let me help them to get to know more about me and do that. So it's a little bit, I'm not spending so much money on some specific advertising sort of thing, but I'm out there doing things in the hope that people will actually notice me and be intrigued enough to want to explore a little bit more, but it's about helping them to find me. The third option is that you go out and get them. This means that you're going to become a sales representative, or you're going to have a team of sales representatives. And you're going to develop your own prospect list, that you're going to have some qualifications all around. You are the ones who have decided, or you are the one who's decided that this is a client you want to pursue. This is an opportunity you want to go after, and you are going to go out there and you are going to get them. So these are the three basic ways to find clients. And by the way, this has got nothing specific about our industry. This holds true to every industry on the planet. So I don't care what the product is. I don't care what the service is. They are getting their business. They are getting that revenue either because they're buying it through their advertising efforts. They are helping people to find them by putting themselves out there where they might be noticed, or they're actually going out there and deliberately targeting and pursuing the clients they want most. So with that, I'm very curious to know, which strategy would you say you are relying upon right now? Where are you putting most of your energy? So when you think about your clients, are you buying them through advertising, spending money to get money? Are you putting more of your energy into doing those things that might get you some exposure in the hope that people will notice you and explore you and find you that way? Or are you actually going out there and in a very predetermined, calculated way, knocking on doors, making calls, tracking down the people that you want most? So which one would you guys say you are relying upon right now? And I'm getting a lot of, I help people find me. Yeah, which sounds like too much reliance on hope the way you describe it. Yeah, I wrote this article and the phrase seems to have clicked. Hope is not a strategy. So hope is a wonderful thing, and we all are going to hold a certain amount of hope in our hearts that good things will turn out for everyone involved, including us. But hope is not a strategy. So we have to be a little bit more calculated if we really want to get the results we're really looking for. And one of you is saying at this time, I'm not doing any of those things. Yeah, well then I guess hope is the only thing left. Someone's asking about where do referrals fit in. Well, referrals certainly fit in, I think, a little bit more to helping them find you. Now, it's true, if your client gives you a lead and you pick up the phone and you call that lead, now you've gone out to get them. So I think that's it. But if you're just hoping that your existing clients are going to know that you need additional business, and they're going to be so, their level of productive tension is going to be so high, it's preaching to the world what your value is, that you can just sit back and wait for all this good things, all this good stuff to find your way, you're relying very much on hope. So let's see. Let's see. Who was saying we go and get them at a 5 times a year convention with preset appointments and trade show. There you go. Certainly those preset appointments fall very much in the category of going out to get them. The trade show booth itself is helping them to find you. And by the way, there's money being spent. If it's a trade show table, it's not like you just made a comment on a website or participating in a LinkedIn group or something like that. You spent money to have that table. But you put yourself in that environment in the hope that people would stop by your booth and see what was going on. But if you did a little bit of pre-work, fine, you got a combination of these things happening. One of you is saying that you're currently networking and you have a hot list. Networking is certainly more about helping them to find you. You're putting yourself out in that networking situation in the hopes that you will stumble across the person you're looking for, or while you're there, someone that you do know will ambassador you into another one. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes in detail. So networking has an element of putting yourself in an environment in the hopes that people will find you, but at least you got up and went out to get them. So when you're saying you got a hot list to follow up on, now I'm hearing a little bit more of that going out and getting them. I will tell you that the most successful people I know are, well, no, I'll do it as a question. Do you think the most successful people that we know in this industry are relying upon buying their clients, helping the clients find them, or going out and getting them? Think about the people that are most successful in the industry. Where do you think they're putting their emphasis? See what people say. Yeah, going out to get them, and some are buying them. Absolutely, some are buying them. But by and large, going out and getting them. Very few of us have been able to find the right place to put advertising. I would say to you that if I knew the right place to actually advertise, I would be more than happy to advertise to do that. For every dollar I spend on advertising, if it brings me $1.05, then I've done something, that's at least resulted in a net gain on the revenue side of things. But we've not really found a place to advertise what it is that we're all about. So that's it. Okay, let's see, getting some other comments here. Let me make sure I'm addressing these. Help them find me. Usually public speaking. Public speaking is a fantastic way of getting in front of an audience. Hopefully, the audience is the right group of people. And hopefully, during that presentation, you have the opportunity to talk a little bit about what they could do next. So as long as that speaking engagement has a real marketing element to it, or a marketing opportunity in it, and you take advantage of that marketing opportunity, then doing speaking engagements can actually just be, I hate to say it, but a waste of time on the marketing side of things. So, and I'm certainly guilty of this. I've had plenty of speaking engagements that I agreed to do, and I wasn't paid for them. These are, more of those outreach kinds of things, where the audience, I didn't know who was going to be there, who wasn't going to be there. I didn't get a list of who these people were. I wasn't allowed to do any kind of a pitch, and I'm hardly a hardcore pitchman or anything like that. I just want to make people aware of what it is that I do. So I've been in plenty of situations that didn't offer me any real marketing opportunity at all, and shame on me for not pre-qualifying it ahead of time. So hopefully I've outgrown that now as I've gotten older and older. Okay. Let's see. I actually find that to be a relief to hear that hope is not a strategy. I end up thinking I'm not hoping correctly when it doesn't secure the results. I'm relieved that there are things I can do. Yeah, we've actually had people who said that the reason why they were struggling in their business, and they were seriously thinking about abandoning their business altogether and just going back into an hourly kind of job someplace. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, because obviously the universe doesn't support me in this. And I said, how is it that you've determined that the universe is against you? And they said, because if the universe really wanted me to do this line of work, the universe would have brought me the clients that I needed to make ends meet. So now this person was absolutely locked into that belief system, and so they ended up abandoning their their career, their independent career, and went back into a work setting. But that's when I start to go like, okay, everyone's got their own little spiritual background or whatever, but how many of us have even heard the thing, God helps those who help themselves? Let's just generalize it. The universe helps people who help themselves. So, what are we doing? What are we really, what's going on there? And so I'm always happy if the universe sends me something, but the universe has got a lot to do. There's a lot of people in the universe that it has to take care of. So there you go. Yeah. Let's see if there's any other comments here. Go out and get them. Go and get them. Let's see, we have a comment here. Absolutely, I convert 75% to my list and generate several sales conversations from speaking engagements. Exactly right. And so, Dinah, I think that you're absolutely on the right track there. As long as we know that that opportunity is a real opportunity for us to advance our interests as well as provide people with something useful and meaningful and interesting and life-changing and all that, good things are happening all the way around. So it really is more about looking at the engagement opportunity and subjecting it to your own list of pre-qualifying criteria. Does it give you the things you want? If it does, then fantastic. What a wonderful way. One thing that I've learned, for example, is that if I can get in front of an audience of professional trainers or speakers or coaches, go and actually do a live presentation at an ICF event or something like that. I never leave one of those events without having some great conversations, and I've always ended up with at least one or two or three good business opportunities because of that. Other times, though, I've just been invited to do a little webinar or a teleclass for one of those organizations, and those simply don't have the level of return that going and doing a true live event would give me. And so we're not all that eager to do these outreach webinars and teleclasses unless I get the rest of the criteria met. I don't really know that would be a good use, but give me a live audience, I'll be there. I'll be there. Okay, so let's go on to this. So obviously, I believe that the strategy that you want to get comfortable using is going out there and getting them. I would hate to think that the reason why you don't go out and get them is because you're afraid to do it. There is some learning that needs to occur. There is some practice that certainly needs to be put into place. But let's go out there and get them. I'm not saying you shouldn't still do some things to help them find you. So do write your articles and do participate in the media and things like that. But do it because you really want to do those kinds of things, not because you're relying upon that to be your sole source of inquiries about your services. And truly, if you were offering a particular program, product, or service to a very specific audience, and you could identify where you could place an actual ad to get in front of that audience, I would not hesitate to do some advertising around there. But it's just difficult to do that in the kind of work that most of us happen to be doing. Okay, so with that, let's kind of move on to a couple other things here. Here's some points to ponder. Beware of the bird in the hand. These things that do find you that are so beautiful and so attractive, that's really great. So it's wonderful. This thing has found you, and you want to go there and you want to go, I'll do that. But it can be a real distraction. I don't mind sharing with you guys that while I went and did those services for this customer, and that was all good, and it brought a nice chunk of revenue, I watched the revenue in my core business go down. And luckily, it didn't go down by as much or more than what that revenue stream was from that client, but it definitely had that negative impact on my core business. And so that bird in the hand, it was really, well, it was pooping in my hand, basically, but it was chirping a beautiful song along the way. Oh, that's a great metaphor. Another thing to think about is that not all the business you could have is necessarily worth having. How many of you have learned that lesson by now? That not all the business you could have is really worth having. Sometimes it's just going to cost you too much in many forms than it's going to bring you. So if it's going to cause you great stress or distract you too much from other things, it might be business that you could have, but it may not really be worth having. And here's something that I learned from a mentor very early on in my career, that I needed to learn to say no before I ended up screaming, no! And so this is something that you want to get comfortable doing early on. Say no to certain opportunities. say no to things that really aren't meeting your qualifications before you look at everything that's going on and just, do the Edvard Munch kind of scream painting in your own house. So before you screaming, no, not this, not this, not this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about referrals. There is a dark side to referrals. Let's chat about this briefly. Referrals don't always lead you where you want to go. I can't begin to tell you how few of my clients truly understand what it is that I do. They don't understand my business. They don't understand what I'm trying to create. They don't understand my criteria for who's qualified and who isn't. They just thought, hey, he's doing great work and he's really been useful. Let me refer someone to him. And so they could give me a lead, and they often do, but they do not necessarily lead me to where I really want to go. So we're in the business of building our professional community. So if I'm doing work with a client or with one of our community members, and the community member says, hey, I've got this opportunity with this particular corporation. I think that you could really help them. Okay, thanks for the lead and thanks for thinking well of me, but that is not my core business. It's not going to lead me where I want to go. Let me respectfully say thanks, but no thanks to that particular opportunity. Next thing about referrals, and hopefully some of you have experienced this to learn this yourself, a referral obtained from an off-course client will probably take you further off course. And so, again, they love you, they appreciate what you've done, but if they were not themselves representing what your ideal prospect was and the work you really love to be doing, well, they're just going to bring you more of what they are or something that might even take you even further off course. Another dark side of referrals is that you're kind of obligated to pursue them, because if you want that customer or the client to continue to give you referrals, you better not abandon the ones they've already given you. In fact, part of our whole referral building strategy involves giving feedback to the referring source that the appointment has been had, the conversation was good, not just saying thank you, but letting them know I really did something with that referral as a way of letting them know that you didn't just mean it superficially. You really did want to do it, and you're really going to do what needs to be done. So one of the dark sides of referrals is that you are obligated to pursue them. And then the last one there is that sometimes it feels foolish to turn down an opportunity. Even if it isn't along the right path. Hey, it's money, it's opportunity, you can be of service to someone. I mean, it really does feel like you're doing something good all the way around, but that feeling is not necessarily going to bring you the client you really want. So the remedy, we need to make sure that we help the referring sources to help us. And we'll get into this in great detail. One of the first skills we'll be talking about in the marketing section of this course comes from a program I did years and years ago called A Lifetime of Leads, 9 Methods for Building Your Business Without Making Cold Calls. Isn't that a great title for a program? Well, A Lifetime of Leads, 9 Methods for Building Your Business Without Making Cold Calls. And when we get to that, I'll tell you the story of where that all came from. Well, the very first method is client-based saturation. So before you go looking for new clients, let's look at our existing clients and make sure we are being of service to them to whatever degree would make sense. And then the second one is refined referral gathering. And so if we're doing such a great job for them, maybe they can refer us to who we're really looking for. So we need to help them help us. We need to make sure that before we go about pursuing referrals or from that referring source, we say to them, let me tell you exactly what it is that I'm looking for. This is what I'm hoping you could point me to. You be really clear about what it is you're looking for, and maybe that'll help them to point you more in the direction you really want to go and less in the directions that you don't really want to go. Okay, so that's a little bit about the dark side of referrals. How many of you ever experienced what I've just said about this referral issues? How many of you have experienced the dark side of referrals? Yeah. One of you just said, it's better to have a bad referral than no business at all. Okay, I can't argue with that, but then we've got a fundamental issue we really need to talk about. So, all right, anyway, let's see other comments on this one. Yeah, many times. Yeah. This is something that if you've been in this business long, not even all that long, you've probably had this happen. And again, where's it coming from? It's basically coming from the fact that you were so good. And so isn't it odd that one of your rewards for being such a remarkable provider of services that people are going to refer you to people you don't necessarily want? Let's see, I think I jumped over a slide here. 1 second here. Yeah, the dark side of networking. So networking is also something that a lot of people go out there and do, but there's a dark side to that as well. And again, when I talk about the dark side, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying of its dark side so you can do something to remedy and move things to the light. So the dark side of networking, the wrong network won't get you anywhere. It's amazing how many people we've met. Again, our primary business is identifying, certifying, and supporting professional coaches, trainers, and consultants in using these tension management principles with their clients. The way we build a very large community. It's very open and hopefully very supportive of what everyone's trying to do. But from that, we naturally find the people that are our ideal professionals. Well, a lot of them have built their businesses, or they've tried to build their business by going out there and doing something networking-wise every single day. Some of them will go to like a chamber breakfast in the morning, and in the afternoon they're off at this association. In the evening they're going here. It's like they fill their week going to networking event after networking event after networking event. Oh, wait just a second. I'm getting a couple comments about referrals here. Dinah is sharing, I've never had a referral that has turned into a client. Generally, the person referred is really not ready to change their situation, get help. Yeah, I've certainly experienced that as well. I have had a few turn into clients, but not the number that I would really want to. Now, for our own business, though, when people who are members of the ChangeWorks community refer other professionals to be a member of the ChangeWorks community, that certainly happens. But I like to think it's because what we offer to the community is, just really good stuff at a super, reasonable price. I mean, a bargain. But that kind of works. But I've never had a corporate client refer me to another corporate client and have that turn into a piece of business immediately. A couple of things have happened, but not right away. Yeah, and for the same reason. Although in our lingo, we would say it's because the referred person doesn't have enough tension to pay attention to their issue. So the referring source may know this person, but why do we assume that the referring source knows this person's situation intimately enough to know their level of readiness to engage? And so again, this is all about tension management. All of your community members, please learn about tension management so you understand how this dynamic works out. Yeah, and some of you are saying choosing the wrong network or too many networks. Yeah, exactly. So the wrong network won't get you anywhere. The next thing is about forgetting to aim one step beyond. Now, again, one of those 9 methods we'll be going over is about networking. And the main lessons in that program is about aiming one step beyond. Most people who go to network hoping that their next client is at that networking event. Really, that's not networking. That's like the equivalent of going to the bar and trying to pick somebody up. You're hoping that the person you really want to connect with is actually there. Well, the strategy in true networking is to aim one step beyond the interaction. So when I'm at a networking event, I do not talk to the people that are there about whether or not they personally need my services. I ask them if they know someone who might. That's aiming one step beyond this interaction. My assumption has always been that as I aim one step beyond, if what I'm saying resonates with the person that I'm talking to and they realize that they could need my services, they'll say something. And they do. And so I've certainly had a lot of good results from people I've met, but not because I was focusing on them or trying to turn that networking event into a sales. A networking event is to network, and that is to be connected to people beyond the people that are physically there. We'll get into that in great detail as we work our way through the marketing section of this course. Another dark side of networking, it's an indirect way to where you want to go. And so this is something that we'll talk about in detail. But let me ask you this. How many of you go to a networking event or have ever gone to one hoping that you will meet somebody who might know somebody who can get you into a particular company that you want to get inside of? You already know you want inside of a company, but you're hoping maybe this person can connect me to this person, one of those whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon sort of situations. You already know where you want to go. why would I then try such an indirect route to get there? Why don't I just try a direct route and see what happens? So if I know the company I want to work for, why don't I pick up the phone and call them directly? I get it. There's a gamble that I'm taking. They might reject me, but maybe, just maybe, I get to talk to someone who is that much closer to where I really want to go. So this whole idea about networking can start to feel very indirect. And if I have a choice, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm wrong, if you can choose between a direct way to get to the client you want or an indirect way, which is the logical route for you to take? The logical route is always going to be the direct route. Unfortunately, the direct route can be quite uncomfortable. And so what we want to do is get past that discomfort so that we can really do whatever it is we need to do to connect more directly with the people that matter most to us. Networking relies very heavily on being ambassadored. I know that's not a real word, but I've decided it is. So I'm trying to find someone who will now carve time out of their schedule to go out there and represent me on my behalf, that they will actually make this contact. They will actually talk me up positively. They will be the ones who facilitate this meeting. They're my ambassador. And yeah, if I'm going to get some good results out of networking, I need to know how to create ambassadors. But this is going to be another piece of work and a burden I'm placing on somebody else. They'll probably ask for the favor to be returned. Do you have the time, the energy, the connections to be able to become someone else's ambassador, or what we call a weaver in the networking program? It does take a lot of time to reach the ultimate client. So, for example, if I was, and I like the next one, it takes a lot of time, period, because you got to like get ready, you got to go to this event, you got to do this event. I mean, there's a lot of work, a lot of time involved just going to a networking event, period. But let's assume that you are actually able to go to this networking event and meet somebody who might be able to introduce you to someone, who might be able to get you to talk to someone inside of that company, who might be able to get you to the decision maker, and who knows how many in-between layers of connections we might have to have. It can take a lot of time to do that, and that time could be measured in months. On the other hand, if I just decide to cold call that client, I believe I could get to that decision maker in far less time on the calendar than networking will probably get me there. So it does take a lot of time to ultimately reach that client. But the last bullet point is the one that troubles me the most, and that is that networking can very often create the illusion that you're doing something vital and valuable for your business. And maybe you are, but maybe you're not based on these other bullet points. But at least in the moment, you feel like you're doing something that is helping your business move forward. So how many of you have experienced any of these dark sides of networking? Am I talking about something that really matches for you? Yeah, okay, good. So, all right, our time's getting a little bit short, so let me go on there. Oh, the remedy, just be highly selective. I'm not saying don't go to a networking event, but pick them very carefully. Pick a networking opportunity that you want to go to, not just because it could lead you to the clients you want, but because you like the organization. You know, let's try to leverage that networking opportunity to get us more than, one hope of getting an ambassador to somebody we're really looking for. That might be a better justification for going there. I'm getting lots of all the aboves. Yeah, hitting the nail on the head. Yeah, it's just true. But see, again, because the average individual in our industry is not someone who thinks of themselves as being an effective marketer or sales representative for themselves, they turn to any other option possible to avoid. And I just go, listen, learning how to market and learning how to sell is very straightforward stuff. Just learn it. Is it uncomfortable? Initially, yes, but if you do it long enough, it's amazing how quickly that discomfort just actually turns into something boring. So even cold calling, at first people are terrified to pick up the call, and so when we have a process where we desensitize them about making those calls. By the time they finish their 100 cold calls, they're kind of going like, really, this is all there is to it? This is it? The worst is I'm going to hear no from X percentage, and most of the time I'm just going to get answering machines. So it's like, yeah, they're going like, this is really boring. Was there something else I can do? So they went from being terrified to being bored inside of making 100 calls. So, just be very selective about where you're going to go and try to get something out of it that really matters to you on other levels. Okay, a couple last slides and we'll be done. Let's talk about the unbelievable truth. It is the truth. You need to believe it. You have to own these bullet points. You control your client list unless you relinquish that control. So this is all under your decision-making powers, who you're going to pursue, who you're going to allow. You choose your clients before they choose you. So you chose who you're going to pick up the phone and call. You choose who you're going to meet with. Now, they may or may not ultimately decide to engage services, but you chose to pursue them before they are even in a situation where they will choose to engage services or not engage. You choose. You are the one who set the criteria. You get to decide all the parameters that that prospect must meet in order to be eligible to work with you. So you're the one who's building your list. You're the one who's choosing who to call. You decide who to keep pursuing. You choose who to keep and who to let go and when. And you ultimately set the terms of that arrangement, or you're going to settle on the terms that they're going to impose upon you. And so this is the truth. You are in complete control of where your business goes. You are in complete control of what your client list looks like unless you choose to relinquish that control. And my observation, working with all the hundreds of professionals that I've worked with over the years, is that they relinquish a tremendous amount of that control. A lot of them almost feel as though they have to take whatever comes their way because they have no choice. And if you're in I get it, if you're in a financial reality that says, I've got to get income, you may choose to allow certain things into your reality because they bring you some money. But at least you're going into that with your eyes wide open and you recognize it's temporary and you're not trying to perpetuate that situation. You all are trying to build your client list. We're going to be talking about credentials in a couple of weeks' time. And the big thing about credentials are people think I'm always talking about their academic and professional credentials. I'm not. There are 12 different kinds of credentials that you all have, hopefully, and use in building your business. Well, one of those credentials is your client list. And if your client list is filled with a whole bunch of local small organizations, mom and pop businesses, and you're trying to go after large corporate clients, that client list is not going to enhance your chances of getting who you're looking for. You have to make sure that client list represents who you really want. Now, I will say that after 30 years of doing this kind of work, I've ended up with a whole lot of great, household name kinds of clients. And so I can say, here's a partial client list, but at least that partial client list has got 30, 40, 50, brand name companies, really well-known, well-regarded companies. And I've done multiple engagements with every single one of them. And so over the course of time, you can kind of filter through and let go of the ones that were the little ones you got started with. But as you build your client list, you want to always ask yourself, does this client enhance my client list? If the client just brings you money, then that's not necessarily who we're looking for, although I get it, you might need the money. We always want to say, does this client enhance my client list? If it does, you're boosting that particular credential. We're working our way through this. Okay, good. All right, now, so I want you guys to really just own this and celebrate this. When you chose to go into business for yourself, you also chose hopefully you're also choosing to decide who you're going to work with. And that's what this whole thing is really all about. So how do you go about designing a client population? There's just these quick little bullet points, and then we'll be done with today's program. You need to clarify your mission. Who exactly is it that you're trying to attract? What is it that you're actually trying to do? So let's get clear about that before you worry about anything else. As you clarify your mission, you want to make sure that you're choosing a niche or a market segment that is both abundant and viable. There are large segments of the population who desperately need your services, but they do not meet the other requirements. We talked about it in an earlier program in the series, that the qualifications that every prospect must meet is that they have to need you, they have to want you, and have to be in the position to pay for you. So if they only meet the first two requirements, they really want you and they really need you, it may not be viable because they are not in the position to hire you. And I'm talking about that segment overall is not viable. So you need to make sure that you choose a niche that is both abundant and viable. you need to define your minimum acceptable criteria. And I won't get into detail. I think you know what I mean by that. Then you want to build an actual list of the most appropriate prospects. So based on those criteria, who can you already name meets those criteria? These are the actual list of the appropriate prospects. Then you want to focus all, you'll notice all in red there, all of your outbound energy on the pursuit of those specific clients. And then sort without mercy. You either meet the requirements or they don't. If they do, you move forward. If they don't, you smile and let them move on, and you move on as well. So you must reject the scarcity mindset in order to feel empowered enough to sort without mercy. The world is a place of tremendous abundance unless you believe otherwise. So there are countless more prospects than you could ever handle as clients. And you don't need to go much beyond your local geography to keep yourself nice and filled for a long, long, long time to come. And so reject that scarcity mindset. And then, last thing, you want to transition away from those off-mission clients. In all likelihood, right now, all of you have got at least somebody you're working with who really isn't on mission. They really aren't your core clients. So, you know, you're not going to get rid of them right away, but you want to transition away from those off-mission clients to liberate time and energy and space for the clients that are meeting these other requirements. So this is your structure for designing a client population. Clarify, choose, define, build, focus, sort, reject, and transition. These are the points there. So with that, let me tell you that, oh yeah, last little point here. You won't get 100% of the clients you want, and I'm never going to suggest that anyone will. But what I will tell you is if you follow this strategy, 100% of the clients you do get will be the clients you wanted. And so follow those little points I gave you for designing the client population. And you won't get everybody, but everyone you get will be people that you really, really want. So with that, we'll finish for today. Next week's topic is about building a non-leveraged business. That's the roadblock. A lot of people are building businesses, but those businesses are not leveraged. And so as a result, they end up needing a lot more clients than they would need if they were fully leveraged. So we're going to see if we can answer the question for you. How many clients do you actually need in order to create the kind of business you want most?